Here's my question about your research, your 5-year process too, is what part of your research regarding not just the Soviet part of the picture, but regarding the US government part of the picture, what part of your research would surprise people the most about our government?
Well, I think the sad truth is that in the late 30s and the 40s during the war years, when Soviet agents were infiltrating the U.S. government and going and reaching the highest levels of the U.S. government, that includes the White House, the State Department, Treasury, that the FBI was very inept in terms of being able to root out these people. But more importantly, I think the saddest aspect of this is that the general population, in many respects, was vaguely or actively supportive of what the Communist Party wanted, which was a radical program for a redistribution of wealth in this country and an overthrow of the democratic government and the imposition of a more socialist way of doing things. And it was, of course, this was the period of the Great Depression. So this was a time of great hardship in America and, in a sense, an openness to radical solutions to the Great Depression. But I think the saddest thing is how vulnerable the U.S. government was, and it came very, very close to not just possibly being taken over by a socialist regime, but cozying up to the Soviet Union and other things that were equally devastating. One of the most devastating, in fact, was a spy that had infiltrated the U.S. Army intelligence by the name of William Weisband. He was in the top echelons of U.S. Army intelligence, and he realized that the U.S. had actually broken the Soviet military codes, whereby they were allocating their military resources throughout Asia. And he tipped off his Soviet handlers that the U.S. was reading Soviet military intelligence. That left us in the dark. We did not realize that Stalin was sending men and material to North Korea in preparation for a war against South Korea. If William Weisband had not tipped off his Soviet handlers, we would have known that Stalin was planning a war in Korea. We would have stood up to Stalin ahead of time, warned him that we would intervene if he did so, and probably prevented the Korean War. So that is a case where one spy in one top U.S. agency was able to precipitate a world war, a Korean War, which resulted in the deaths of 50,000 Americans. So that just gives you one sense of how devastating the infiltration of the U.S. government was at that period.
And imagine that, the FBI being vulnerable to corruption by socialists, Marxists, communists. As probably King Solomon said in Ecclesiastes, there's nothing new under the sun. That certainly applies to the FBI of today.